The night lay deceptively calm over the Russian frontier. A blanket of stars, a gentle breeze through the tall grass, the kind of quiet that makes you forget a war is raging just miles away. But this calm was a lie. It was the final, held breath before the storm. Then, without warning, they came to life. Ukrainian long-range drones, their small propellers slicing through the darkness. Storm Shadow and Scalp cruise missiles blasting off from the banks of the Dnipro River. This was no isolated strike. It was a multi-layered campaign, a symphony of destruction designed to crack open Russia's forward shield at Belgorod, the last major buffer before Moscow itself. In seconds, the calm would shatter, and what followed would become a devastating lesson in modern warfare. Welcome, everyone, to the channel. If you're new here, we break down the complexities of modern conflict, from the tech on the ground to the grand strategies shaping our world. Today, we're dissecting one of the most audacious and effective military operations of the Ukraine war, a coordinated strike that reached from the Black Sea to the heart of Moscow itself. We're talking about a campaign that combined drone swarms, cruise missiles, special forces, and cyber warfare into a single, seamless blow. A strike that didn't just target military bases, but aimed to shatter the very illusion of Russian invincibility. Our story begins at Belgorod. For months, this Russian city had been a fortress, a logistics hub, a staging ground for attacks, and, critically, the home to a dense network of radar stations and early warning sites. These were Russia's eyes, and Ukraine's first target was to blind them. The first wave crossed the border flying impossibly low, barely 100 feet above the treetops. These weren't jets, they were modified, long-range drones. They skimmed the darkness, expertly hugging river valleys and the contours of the land to stay invisible, ghosting beneath the coverage of Russian radar. But the drones were just the opening act. At the same moment, from far behind Ukrainian lines, MGM-140 ATACMS missiles screamed overhead at nearly Mach 3. Their mission was simple and brutal: decapitate the command and sensory network. In a matter of seconds, their warheads slammed into those radar stations on the outskirts of Belgorod. Screens in Russian command bunkers flickered and went black. Operators were left stunned, shouting into dead microphones. Russia's eyes along the entire frontier had just been gouged out. With the Russians deaf and blind, the hammer fell. On the ground, the armor moved. Leopard 2A6 tanks and Britain's Challenger 2s rolled forward at over 40 miles per hour. Their 120mm guns cracked the night with thunderous precision. Each shot was deliberate. Command posts, ammunition trucks, and entrenched artillery pits erupted into massive fireballs. Infantry fighting vehicles followed tight behind, pouring squads of soldiers into the gaps torn open by the tanks. The Russians, to their credit, countered quickly. Columns of T-72s and BMPs surged out of Belgorod's southern districts, determined to block the advance. This is what they had trained for, a classic armor-on-armor engagement. But Ukrainian infantry had already prepared the ground. Anti-tank mines laced the approaches, detonating in brutal flashes that tore through the lead vehicles. Javelins and NLAWs followed from hidden positions, striking the stragglers as chaos spread through the Russian ranks. They were driving into a perfectly laid kill zone. By dawn, columns of smoke rose thousands of feet into the sky above Belgorod. The city's forward logistics hub was crippled. Fuel depots burned out of control. Rail yards were shattered and unusable. For Ukraine, the first door into Russia's interior now stood wide open. But the planners in Kiev weren't stopping at Belgorod. The flames of the first city still lit the horizon when Ukraine pushed deeper. With Russia's frontline hub shattered, the next target loomed: Voronezh. This wasn't just another city. It was a sprawling industrial hub and a vital artery feeding Moscow's war machine. And it was about to be severed. From the skies, Ukrainian Su-27s and MiG-29s cut through the night at 15,000 feet, their wings heavy with Western-supplied JDAM bombs. As they approached Voronezh, the bombs dropped free, their GPS inertial guidance kits guiding them with pinpoint accuracy. Seconds later, the massive oil storage tanks erupted. The shockwaves shattered windows across entire neighborhoods. The glow was visible for miles. It was the kind of strike that no state propaganda could possibly disguise or explain away. This was a strategic attack, deep inside Russia. But Russia was not passive. Humiliated, the Kremlin ordered a fierce response. From far out in the Black Sea, a Kilo-class submarine glided silently. its missile tubes loaded with caliber cruise missiles. At 3:42 a.m., hatches snapped open. One after another, missiles burst into the night, arcing north toward Kiev at nearly 600 miles per hour. The Kremlin expected shock and terror. Instead, the missiles met steel resolve. Alarms sounded across Ukrainian positions, but Patriot PAC-3 batteries stood ready. With radar locked on, interceptors screamed upward at over Mach 4. Within seconds, the first intercepts lit the night above the capital. Blinding flashes followed by showers of harmless debris. Out of dozens of missiles fired, the majority were obliterated mid-air. The message was clear: Ukraine's shield was holding. Back near Voronezh, the battle turned ruthless. On the M4 highway, Russia's main supply route to Moscow, convoys of trucks and armored carriers thundered north, desperate to avoid the chaos. Then the buzz began. Small, almost insignificant, until it grew into a deadly, pervasive swarm. FPV suicide drones dove at 120 miles per hour, each carrying several pounds of explosives. One after another, they smashed into their targets. Explosions rolled down the highway, fire engulfing vehicle after vehicle until the road itself was a corridor of destruction, a hellscape of twisted steel and blackened wreckage. By dawn, Voronezh was unrecognizable. Oil depots burned uncontrollably. Ammunition dumps detonated in chain reactions. And the M4 highway, the lifeline to Moscow, was severed. Russia's logistical artery was bleeding fire. For Ukraine, the strike was more than tactical, it was strategic. With Belgorod crippled and Voronezh in flames, Moscow stood increasingly, and terrifyingly, isolated. Voronezh burned through the night. But Russia, humiliated on its own soil, could not remain silent. The Kremlin ordered a response, this time, not just from the Black Sea, but a massive barrage aimed at breaking Kiev's will. Yet Ukraine had prepared for this front as well. As the Onyx raced inland, the sea itself fought back. From hidden ports, Ukraine unleashed its secret weapon, naval drones. They closed on Russian frigates at 50 knots, weaving through desperate tracer fire. At the same time, Neptune anti-ship missiles thundered off their launchers. Caught between drones from below and missiles from above, Russia's naval formation fractured. One frigate was hit, another collided in the chaos. The Black Sea was alive with smoke and wreckage. Russia's retaliation had failed. And in that moment of disarray, Ukraine prepared the most audacious phase of all, the long road to Moscow itself. This was more than firepower, it was choreography. While storm shadows struck air bases near Tula, grounding Russian fighters, Ukrainian special forces were already deep behind enemy lines. Their mission, silence. They infiltrated relay stations, severing fiber optic cables and blowing up critical communication hubs. At 5:12 a.m., the detonations ripped through the network. In an instant, entire sectors went dark. Commanders were shouting into dead radios. For a brief, critical window, Russia was blind, deaf, and dumb. At 5:41 a.m., the illusion of invulnerability collapsed. Alarms wailed across Moscow. Panzer systems on rooftops erupted, their tracer fire ripping green and red streaks through the pre-dawn darkness. S-400 missiles launched in deafening bursts, their exhaust plumes lighting up entire districts. One drone tore across the southern district before slamming into a fuel depot. Another struck the glass towers of Moscow City's financial hub. Shards of glass cascaded down like glittering rain while smoke gushed upward into the skyline once thought impregnable. For ordinary Muscovites, it was a night unlike any in living memory. For the first time since World War II, Moscow was under direct attack. The war was no longer a distant news story, it was here, on their streets, under their sky, at their very doorstep. The digital battlefield erupted instantly. The Kremlin's early claims that all drones were destroyed collapsed under the weight of 1,000 viral videos. The symbolism was undeniable. If drones could punch through the capital's billion-dollar defenses, what was truly safe? What we witnessed was more than a series of attacks. It was a paradigm shift. A demonstration of how agility, intelligence, and layered technology can overwhelm traditional mass and firepower. This was Ukraine's masterstroke. A lesson written in fire, steel, and the unblinking eye of the drone. What did you think of this breakdown? Was Russia's defense fundamentally flawed, or was Ukraine's plan just that good? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to see more deep dives into the strategy and tech of modern warfare, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.